At the end of this rather dark looking area of track, where the remnants of the Scots pine plantations still remain, lies a veritable oasis. An oasis containing something that is indeed very rare over Sherwood Forest. Sherwood Forest is built by Mother Nature on Sherwood sandstone, and it has a very poor understory and flora diversity. So to find this plant in the numbers that it is present here in this little oasis is incredibly rare. Occasionally, as you walk through some of the more pine forested parts of Sherwood Forest, you will see single examples of both this plant and another in the same family. And we're talking orchids, but we're not talking rare orchids. Because where this track opens up is this area here. It's an area where some of the trees were removed at the side, and over the years, on a number of occasions, this area has been used solely for stacking timber that has been felled and is ready to be loaded onto lorries and carted off to be sold. A couple of years ago, it was used as such, but whenever it's not used for storing timber, there are lots and lots, and in terms of Sherwood Forest, unusually lots of common spotted orchid here. And they're mostly in this first section before that hump, which is a bramble and an assortment of other plants. But the number of common spotted orchids here is quite astonishing and confined generally to this little area. Now, I know that common spotted orchid is generally that. It's common enough in suitable habitat over most of Nottinghamshire and over much of the UK. But in Sherwood Forest, orchids are extremely rare. Even common spotted orchids, you can wander around all day at this time of year, which is early July, and you'll be lucky to see one or two single plants, and they'll always be on the more forested or commercial forested sections and parts of Sherwood Forest. But it's the sheer number of common spotted orchids here that make even a common plant such as this a veritable spectacle. To see orchids in such large numbers here is a very rare occurrence, but thankfully in this one little spot of Sherwood Forest, it's a more or less annual occurrence. I featured these very plants in a video probably this time last year, but I do have a thing for orchids. I think everybody does, whether you're not really that much of a botanist or into your plants. I think everybody loves an orchid and everyone's fascinated by orchids. How many homes now have the phalaenopsis, the moth orchids, gracing the kitchen windowsill, or any other windowsill for that matter? Orchids have become so popular, and thanks to the phalaenopsis orchids, they're now pretty much in most people's homes that like plants. To see orchids in the UK, I remember seeing my first orchid in the UK when I was a lot younger, and I was awestruck to finally see one. When I was a child, these were pretty much magical plants, or things of mythology almost, and at one point, until I educated myself, I didn't realise that you got orchids in the UK. I thought they were confined to warm, dense jungles. But no, we have a whole range of orchids, and given the opportunity and the chance, I would like to feature orchids more. But we'll have to make do with just the humble common spotted orchid. But it really is, despite its common status, it's an attractive plant. It's a beautiful plant. The individual flowers are absolutely gorgeous, very intricate. And it's one of my favourites, I must admit, because even in Nottinghamshire here, you can sometimes get it in great abundance. I remember visiting the former Annesley Bentinck Colliery at one time, and this was after the pit had closed down, and there was an area there either side of the lagoon, and it was carpeted with these things, absolutely carpeted. I've not been one for travelling the length and breadth of the UK looking for orchids. I have been to some orchid hotspots in the Chilterns and areas such as that, but never seen the numbers that I saw that day on a former colliery. Collieries are quite good for both this species and also the bee orchid, which is another one of my favourites. There's only one or two plants that I know of, or know roughly where they are, in Sherwood Forest of bee orchid. But I'll have to make do with this beauty, and it is an absolute stunner. So although it may well be very common in Nottinghamshire, the UK, in Sherwood Forest it's a different kettle of fish, and I certainly enjoy making an annual pilgrimage to come and catch this beautiful flower at its glorious best, which is the first week of July this year. It's a beautiful thing.